You ever feel like your whole life is a routine that you can't escape? Yeah, that was me, man. My name's Elliot. I'm 30, and I work a pretty stable but dead-end job as a technician in a small repair company. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them. My wife, Deborah, she's 28. We've been together for 10 years and married for 5. She was my first love. Hell, my only love. Deborah and I didn't have it easy growing up. We were both orphans, no parents to lean on, no inheritance or family trust funds. Everything we had, we built from scratch. Our life was simple but stable, or so I thought. A few months ago, things started to change. Deborah was different. She'd stay late at work more often than usual, coming home exhausted but weirdly energized, like her mind was somewhere else. And she was glued to her phone, always texting or checking messages. I'd ask, "Deb, everything okay? You've been working late a lot." She'd flash me that practice smile and say, "Yeah, babe, it's just been crazy at work. I've got a shot at a promotion. I need to show the boss I'm serious." It seemed reasonable at first. She works in marketing, and it's competitive as hell. But then it kept happening, night after night. And that phone of hers? Always on silent, always face down. At one point I joked, "What's with the phone? You got government secrets on there or something?" She laughed it off. "Oh, come on, Elliot. It's just work stuff. You know how clients are, always messaging at odd hours." But something didn't sit right. You know that gut feeling, like the universe is whispering, "Pay attention"? Yeah, I had that. But I kept telling myself I was overthinking it. I mean, this was Deborah. We'd been through hell and back together. She wouldn't lie to me, right? Or so I thought. One Friday, I got off work early. Boss gave us the afternoon off because the system update went smoother than expected. I figured I'd surprise Deborah. She had the day off too. She'd mentioned working on some big project from home, so I stopped by the bakery, grabbed her favorite strawberry cheesecake, and headed home. I was excited, man. I thought we could spend some time together, maybe relax a little. But when I walked in, the place was eerily quiet. No laptop humming on the table, no papers scattered around, just nothing. At first, I thought maybe she went to grab coffee or take a walk to clear her head. But hours passed. I called her straight to voicemail. It wasn't until I heard a car door slam outside that I went to the window, and that's when I saw it. Deborah stepped out of a sleek black car. The driver? Some dude in a tailored suit, tall, confident, the kind of guy who looks like he was born to give orders. They stood there for a moment, talking, laughing. Then he leaned in, and she kissed him. Not just a friendly peck on the cheek. No, this was different. Intimate. Like something out of a damn movie. My heart hit the floor. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I froze, just watching as she walked up the driveway like nothing happened. When she walked through the door, I was already sitting at the kitchen table, cheesecake still in its box. "Hey, you're home early," she said, her voice too cheerful. She set her purse down and smiled like everything was normal. I didn't smile back. "Where were you?" Her face twitched for a second, just a second, but then she recovered. "Oh, I was out running some errands, needed a break from the project." I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Errands, huh? You run those with a guy in a black car?" She blinked, her smile faltering. What are you talking about?" "I saw you, Deb. I saw you kiss him. So how about you cut the bullshit and tell me what's really going on?" Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked like a deer caught in headlights. Then she scoffed, trying to laugh it off. "Elliot, you're being ridiculous. That's just my boss, Chase. It's nothing. He gave me a ride because my car wouldn't start this morning. And the kiss, it was just friendly, like a thank you. Don't make it into something it's not." "Friendly? You really expect me to believe that?" "Elliot, come on, don't be paranoid." Paranoid? That word cut deep. I wasn't imagining things, damn it. I stood up, shaking my head. "Let me see your phone." "What? No, why?" "Because I need to know the truth, Deborah. Right now." She hesitated, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. That hesitation was all the confirmation I needed. Without waiting for permission, I grabbed it from her hand. She yelped in protest, but I was done playing nice. I opened her messages, and there it was. Text after text from Chase, plans to meet, late-night conversations, even flirty photos. My hands trembled as I scrolled through it all. "How long?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. "How long, Deborah?" "A few months," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "It just happened, Elliot. I didn't mean for it to. He promised me a promotion. I was trying to secure our future, for us." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "For us? You cheated on me for a damn job? Are you serious right now?" "I made a mistake, okay? I'm sorry. I was under so much pressure at work, and Chase, he made me feel important." I laughed bitterly. "Important? So that's all it took? Some guy in a suit giving you attention? Wow, just wow." "Elliot, please. I love you. I do. I just don't." I cut her off, my voice cold. "You don't get to play the I love you card after this." She reached for me, but I stepped back. I couldn't even look at her anymore. Everything felt like it was crumbling around me. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I saw was that kiss. Her smile when she talked to Chase. The woman I loved, trusted, gave everything to. She betrayed me. And her excuse? A promotion. For our future. It made me sick. The next morning, I got up early, still numb. Deborah tried to act normal, like we could sweep this under the rug and pretend everything was fine. I didn't say much, just a few grunts here and there. I needed time to think. Weeks went by, and I was still stuck in this mental fog. I wasn't sure what to do. I mean, how do you move forward after something like that? Deborah and I barely talked. Just the basics. "How was your day?" "Fine." "Dinner's on the table." It was robotic, lifeless. I'd catch her glancing at me sometimes like she wanted to say something, but I wasn't ready for any more heart-to-hearts. Then, one night, she finally broke the silence. "Elliot, we need to talk," she said, standing in the doorway of the living room. I sighed, not even looking up from the TV. "What now?" "I lost my job." That got my attention. I turned to face her. "Wait, what? You got fired?" Her face was pale, her hands nervously fidgeting. "Yeah. Chase. He promised me a promotion, but instead, he threw me under the bus. Apparently, someone found out about us." "Wow," I muttered, shaking my head. "So the guy you wrecked our marriage for just left you to rot. Real classy." "Elliot, I didn't plan for this to happen. He told me everything would be fine." "Yeah? Well," she flinched at that, but I didn't care. She wasn't done, though. There's something else," she said hesitantly. My gut clenched. "Jesus, what now?" She took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." I froze. For a second, it felt like the world just stopped spinning. I stared at her, trying to process what she'd just said. "You're pregnant?" I repeated slowly. "Yeah," she whispered, "and it might be Chase's. Of course, it might be his. Because why the hell not? My life was already in the gutter. Might as well throw this grenade into the mix." "So, let me get this straight," I said, my voice tight. "You got fired, you're pregnant, and the father could be the same guy who screwed you over at work. Is that about right?" She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know how bad this looks, Elliot, but I need you now more than ever. This doesn't have to be the end for us. We can get through this. We can raise the baby together. Maybe this could even bring us closer." I laughed bitterly. "Closer? Deb, are you hearing yourself? You expect me to raise a kid that might not even be mine, after everything you've done?" She wiped her eyes and stepped closer. "Please, Elliot. We've been through so much together. Don't throw it all away." "Don't throw it all away?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You already did that when you started sleeping with your boss." "It was a mistake. I was scared, I was under pressure, and I made a terrible choice. But I still love you. I want to make things right. I shook my head, disbelief washing over me. You don't get it, do you? You want me to just forget about everything and play happy family? That's not how this works. She sniffled and whispered, I'm scared, Elliot. I can't do this alone. And there it was. The fear I knew all too well. The fear of being alone. It hit me hard because deep down, I felt it too. I didn't have anyone. No friends, no family. Deborah was all I had for years. But now I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. I exhaled slowly, the weight of the situation pressing down on my chest. I need time to think, I muttered, heading toward the door. Elliot, please. I just need some air, I said, cutting her off. Then I walked out, not sure where I was going, but knowing I couldn't stay in that house another minute. A few days later, I was back at the house, barely functioning. I couldn't think straight, couldn't focus. Deborah was still acting like we could patch things up with duct tape and good intentions. I wasn't buying it. Then, out of the blue, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I was already on edge. I opened the door, and there he was, Chase. The man himself standing there like he was about to sell me a used car. What the hell do you want? I growled, gripping the doorframe. Elliot, right? He gave me this fake-ass smile and extended a hand. I didn't take it. Look, I know things have been complicated. I wanted to come by and clear the air. Clear the air? I repeated, laughing bitterly. Oh, you mean after you screwed my wife and got her fired? Yeah, I'd say things are a little complicated. He sighed, adjusting his fancy watch. I get it. You're angry. You have every right to be. But I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to make things right. For everyone. Make things right? I stepped closer, my fists clenching. You think you can just waltz in here and play peacemaker? You ruined my life. Chase held up his hands like he was calming a wild animal. Elliot, listen. I didn't plan for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I'm here to find a solution. We're all adults, right? I wanted to deck him right then and there. I could feel the adrenaline pumping, my vision narrowing. But something in his calm, rehearsed tone stopped me. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to manipulate. I needed to stay sharp. Fine, I said through gritted teeth. Talk. He nodded, like he'd won some small victory. Look, I have a family of my own. I can't afford for this to get out. If my wife finds out, it'll destroy everything. So here's what I'm proposing. I'll provide financial support. For the baby, for Deborah. You and I both know she's in a tough spot right now. This can be a win-win. A win-win? I repeated, shaking my head in disbelief. You're kidding, right? No, I'm serious, he said. Think about it. You and Deborah can have financial stability. I'll stay out of your lives as much as possible. All I ask is that we keep things quiet. I was about to explode when Deborah walked in. Chase, she gasped. What are you doing here? Trying to fix this mess, I muttered under my breath. Chase turned to her with that same charming smile. Deborah, I'm just explaining the plan. I'm willing to help, financially. Her eyes lit up, like he'd just promised her a golden ticket. Really? That could be a huge help, Elliot, she said, turning to me. This could make things easier for both of us. I stared at her, dumbfounded. Are you serious right now? You actually think this is a good idea? Elliot, please, she pleaded. It's not just about us anymore. We have to think about the baby. The baby, I muttered, shaking my head. Right. The baby that might not even be mine. Chase jumped in. Look, Elliot, this isn't about pride. It's about doing what's best for everyone. I'm not the bad guy here. Oh, you're not? I snapped. You slept with my wife, got her fired, and now you want me to play dad while you write a few checks to keep your perfect little life intact? Deborah stepped closer, grabbing my arm. Elliot, please. Think about the future. We can move past this. We can still be a family. A family. That word again. It was like a twisted joke. They both stood there, pushing me from different angles, like I was some pawn in their little game. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. You know what? I need a break from this circus. Both of you, get out of my face. Elliot, Deborah started, but I cut her off with a glare. Out, I said firmly. Chase nodded, raising his hands in surrender. All right, I'll give you some time, but think it over. This doesn't have to end badly. He walked out, leaving Deborah and me in tense silence. She opened her mouth to say something, but I didn't want to hear it. I was done with the empty promises, the fake sympathy. As the door closed behind them, I sat down and buried my face in my hands. They were both pushing me into a corner, but I wasn't about to let them control my life. I needed a plan, fast, because this whole thing was spiraling out of control. For days, my mind wouldn't stop racing. I kept asking myself the same questions over and over again. What the hell was I supposed to do? I didn't have anyone to turn to. No family, no close friends. I was on my own, just like I'd always been. The idea of leaving, of divorcing Deborah and walking away from this nightmare, felt impossible. How would I even afford it? My job barely paid enough to cover rent and bills. Starting over from scratch? It terrified me. Meanwhile, Deborah was acting weirdly happy. Like she didn't fully grasp the gravity of the situation. It was infuriating. One night, as we sat in awkward silence at the dinner table, she finally spoke up. You know, I've been thinking, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. I nearly choked on my water. A blessing? Are you out of your mind? Hear me out, she said, her tone almost cheerful. Chase is going to help us financially. We'll be more stable than we've ever been. We can raise the baby together. Doesn't that sound good? Good? I repeated, my voice rising. Deb, are you listening to yourself? You're acting like this whole situation is some fairy tale ending. It's not perfect, I know, she said, her smile faltering slightly. But we can make it work. We've been through hard times before, Elliot. We survived. Why not now? Why not now? I scoffed. I'll tell you why not. Because you cheated on me. Because this baby might not even be mine. And now you expect me to just play along while Chase throws us a few bucks to keep his perfect life intact? That's not stability, Deb. That's a freaking circus. She sighed, shaking her head like I was the one being unreasonable. You're always so focused on the negative. I'm trying to find a solution here. We have a chance to build a better future. No, you're trying to justify your betrayal, I snapped. You think money from Chase is going to magically fix everything? Newsflash, it won't. This isn't normal, Deb. You crossed a line and now we're stuck in this mess. She crossed her arms and leaned back, looking annoyed. You're being dramatic. People move on from worse things all the time. I stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. How could she be so blind? So cold? This version of Deborah was obsessed with money, with convenience. She didn't care about right or wrong. She just wanted an easy way out. I stood up from the table, unable to listen to her any longer. You don't get it. I can't live like this. I won't. This isn't a life. It's a nightmare. Her eyes narrowed. So what? You're just going to walk away? Run from your problems? I don't know, I admitted. I walked out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I needed help. Someone to talk to. Someone who could give me perspective. Otherwise, I was going to lose my mind. Before you find out what happens next, please subscribe to the channel. A few mornings later, I found myself wandering through the park. I wasn't even sure why I came here. It just felt like the only place where I could breathe. The early sun filtered through the trees, casting long shadows on the walking paths. I stopped near a bench, my thoughts a jumbled mess. Elliot, my boy, you look like you've seen a ghost, a familiar voice called out. I turned and saw him, Harry, the old man who worked as a park cleaner. He was in his usual outfit, a faded green jacket and a cap that had seen better days. I saw him most mornings when I walked through the park to clear my head before work. We weren't exactly friends, but we'd exchanged greetings and small talk over the years. He always seemed calm, like nothing in life could shake him. Hey, Harry, I muttered, managing a weak smile. He walked over, leaning on his broom. You all right, son? You look like the weight of the world's on your shoulders. I hesitated for a moment. I wasn't used to opening up to people, but something about Harry felt safe. Maybe it was the fact that he didn't judge, didn't push. He just listened. Honestly, I'm a mess, I admitted. Everything's falling apart, and I have no idea what to do. Harry nodded slowly, his weathered face thoughtful. Sometimes life throws storms at us we never saw coming. But you can't face it alone. Talk to me, son. What's going on? Before I knew it, the whole story came pouring out. The affair, the pregnancy, Chase's manipulative offers, and my fear of being trapped. By the time I finished, my hands were shaking and my throat felt tight. I don't know how to move forward, I whispered. I want to get out of this, but I'm broke. I can't afford a lawyer. I don't even know where to start. Harry placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. Sounds like you've been through hell, Elliot. But you're not alone in this. You're stronger than you think. Yeah, but strength doesn't pay legal fees, I said bitterly. Harry chuckled softly. Maybe not, but I happen to know someone who might be able to help. My nephew, Mike Mitchell. He's a lawyer, a damn good one too, and he's got a strong sense of justice. I'm sure he'd be willing to lend a hand, especially if I vouch for you. Wait, you'd do that for me? I asked, surprised. Of course, Harry said with a warm smile. I've seen you around for years. You're a good man, Elliot. You just need a little help to get back on your feet. I felt a lump in my throat. Thank you, Harry. I don't even know what to say. Don't worry about that, he said, patting my shoulder. Let me give Mike a call. We'll set up a meeting and get you the support you need. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone in this as I thought. A couple of days later, I met Mike Mitchell. Harry had set it all up and told me to meet them at a small coffee shop near the park. When I walked in, Mike stood out immediately. A tall guy in his late 35s, sharp features, dressed in a neatly tailored navy suit. He had this calm yet commanding presence, like he was always 2 steps ahead of everyone in the room. Elliot, right? He said, standing up to shake my hand. His grip was firm, confident. I'm Mike. My Uncle Harry's told me a lot about you. Good things, I hope, I said nervously. Only good things, he replied with a smile, motioning for me to sit. Let's get straight to it. Harry mentioned you're dealing with a pretty rough situation. I want you to know, I'm here to help. No strings attached. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it, I said. I don't even know where to begin. Mike leaned forward, his expression serious but not intimidating. All right, here's what you need to understand. If you're serious about divorce, you need to act fast. The longer you wait, the more complicated this will get, especially with a child involved. We need to get ahead of this before it spirals out of control. I nodded, taking a deep breath. Okay, what do I need to do? First, we need proof, Mike said. In cases like this, documentation is everything. If you want to challenge paternity or any future claims from your wife, you'll need evidence of the affair. Evidence? Like what? I asked. Texts, emails, anything that shows a pattern of infidelity, Mike explained. Ideally, we'd have a confession or something solid, but we work with what we have. Can you get access to her phone? I hesitated for a moment, but then I thought about all the times Deborah left her phone lying around when she wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I think I can. Good, Mike said, nodding approvingly. Once you have that, we'll secure those messages and start building a case. It's not the strongest evidence, but it's better than nothing. Once we file for divorce, the court will require a paternity test. That'll give us more leverage. We spent the next hour going over the details. Mike was thorough but approachable. He made everything sound manageable, like this wasn't the end of the world, even though it sure felt like it. That night, I put the plan into motion. Deborah was taking a shower, and her phone was charging on the kitchen counter. My heart pounded as I unlocked it using the passcode I'd memorized ages ago. I scrolled through her messages with Chase, my stomach turning with every word. I quickly downloaded the entire thread to my email, then erased any sign of what I'd done. By the time Deborah came out of the bathroom, I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch TV. The next day, I met Mike again and handed over the evidence. He skimmed through the messages, nodding. This isn't a slam dunk, but it's a start. Let's move forward. Later that evening, I sat Deborah down. I didn't want to sugarcoat it. I've filed for divorce, I said flatly. Her eyes widened in shock. What? Elliot, no, you can't be serious. I am, I replied, my voice cold and steady. This is over, Deborah. You made your choices. Now it's time to face the consequences. No, please, she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. You don't understand. I can't do this alone. I need you. We need each other. I shook my head. We had something once, but you destroyed it. I'm done being your backup plan. You'll have to figure things out on your own. She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. A part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay. But that part of me was gone, buried under all the lies, the betrayal. I stood up and walked away, knowing this was the beginning of the end. The legal wheels were already turning. Mike filed the divorce papers, and now we had to wait for the paternity test. That meant waiting for the baby to be born, which was months away. But things didn't stay quiet for long. Word got back to Chase, and apparently he wasn't thrilled that his little secret was unraveling. A few days later, Mike called me. Chase reached out, he said. He wants to meet. Him, you, and me. He's panicking, probably afraid his wife's going to find out. Good, I muttered. Let him sweat. Mike chuckled. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. This meeting's a chance to put pressure on him. He's hoping to avoid legal trouble, but I've got a feeling he's not as generous as he pretended to be. Meet me at my office tomorrow. The next day, Chase arrived right on time, dressed in his usual business casual armor, blazer, slacks, polished shoes. His face was tense, though. No more charming smiles. He knew he was in deep. Mike and I were already seated in the conference room when he walked in. Chase sat down across from us, adjusting his sleeves like he was trying to regain control of the situation. All right, Chase began, his voice tight. Let's get this over with. What do you want? Mike leaned back in his chair, completely unfazed. What we want is simple. Elliot's filing for divorce. The paternity of the child is under question, which means your involvement is going to be scrutinized by the court. Elliot has no intention of raising a child that isn't his. So, Chase, here's your chance to come clean and figure out a solution that works for everyone. Chase's jaw clenched. I already told Deborah I'd help financially. Mike raised an eyebrow. Oh? And what exactly does that mean? A vague promise? Because right now, we're not seeing anything concrete. I was going to handle it privately, Chase snapped. I didn't want this to go public. Mike's smile sharpened. You mean you didn't want your wife to find out? Chase glared at him. Don't play games with me, Mitchell. This isn't about my wife. Oh, but it is, Mike countered smoothly. You're scared shitless that she's going to find out you've been having an affair and might have fathered another woman's child. That's why you're here, because you're desperate to keep this under wraps. Well, newsflash, Elliot isn't going to play daddy to your kid, and he sure as hell isn't going to stay silent while you try to manipulate your way out of this. Chase's face turned red. I didn't come here to be threatened. Threatened? Mike chuckled. This isn't a threat. It's a reality check. You thought you could buy your way out of this with empty promises, but that's not how this is going to work. If you want to avoid a full-blown scandal, you're going to need to cooperate, on our terms. Chase leaned forward, pointing a finger at Mike. Listen, I don't want a legal war. I'm trying to be reasonable. You want reasonable? Fine, Mike said calmly. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to meet with both Elliot and Deborah. We're going to draw up a formal agreement. No more vague offers. No more stalling. Either you commit to a clear financial plan, or we take this to court. And trust me, Chase, you don't want your wife sitting in that courtroom, hearing all the dirty details. Chase's shoulders sagged. He knew he was cornered. Fine. Set up the meeting, he muttered. Mike nodded, satisfied. Good choice. We'll be in touch. As Chase stormed out of the office, I turned to Mike. Damn, you didn't hold back. Mike grinned. When you've dealt with guys like him long enough, you learn how to push their buttons. Now we've got him where we want him. He'll try to negotiate, but he knows he can't afford to let this blow up. A few days later, the three of us, me, Deborah, and Chase, met in Mike's office. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Deborah sat stiffly next to me, shooting nervous glances at Chase, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mike, on the other hand, was the picture of calm authority, flipping through a stack of papers. All right, everyone, Mike began, leaning forward. Let's cut to the chase, pun intended. He smirked slightly, but no one else laughed. He sighed and continued. We're here to settle this once and for all. I'm going to outline a plan that benefits all of you, because trust me, the alternatives are a lot worse. Chase crossed his arms. Let's hear it. Mike laid out the terms one by one. First, he said, pointing to Deborah, you agree to the divorce. No stalling, no dragging this out, and no future claims against Elliot once the papers are signed. You'll split your possessions evenly, which, from what Elliot tells me, isn't much, and that's the end of it. Deborah frowned but nodded reluctantly. Fine. Second, Mike continued, turning to Chase, you're going to provide financial support. Deborah's going to need stability, especially with a child on the way. We both know you don't want your wife finding out about this situation, so here's your chance to avoid that. Chase tensed up. How much are we talking about? $100,000, Mike said without missing a beat. Half up front, half after the baby's born. In exchange, Deborah won't contact you or make any demands beyond this agreement. This keeps things clean and quiet. 100,000! Chase's voice rose. Are you kidding me? Deborah jumped in, her voice sharp. 100,000 isn't enough. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to raise a child? I need at least double that. Oh, come on, Chase snapped. You're delusional. I'm not made of money. You're a corporate executive, she shot back. Don't act like you can't afford it. Enough. Mike's voice cut through the argument like a knife. Both Deborah and Chase fell silent. He leaned forward, his gaze icy. Let's get one thing straight. If this goes to court, both of you are screwed. Deborah, you'll be stuck as a single mother with minimal child support. And Chase, your wife will find out everything. You'll be facing a divorce of your own, along with alimony and child support for your current kids and this new situation. So tell me, do you both really want to play that game? The room went dead quiet. Chase shifted uncomfortably in his seat, while Deborah stared at the floor, biting her lip. Mike pressed on. 100,000 is fair. It keeps things simple and avoids a legal circus. You can fight about it all you want, but trust me, you'll both come out worse if you do. Chase finally broke the silence. Fine, but I want this done. No more surprises. Deborah hesitated, then sighed. All right, I'll agree. Good, Mike said, nodding with satisfaction. I'll draft the official agreement. You'll both sign it, and we'll move forward. As Mike wrapped up the details, I sat back, feeling a strange mix of relief and disbelief. After everything, it was finally coming to an end. Deborah and Chase had gotten themselves into this mess, and now they were stuck dealing with the fallout. But me, I was almost free, and that was all that mattered. A week later, the agreement was signed and sealed. Mike handled everything like a pro, contracts, signatures, the works. Chase handed over the first payment to Deborah, clearly eager to get this nightmare behind him. He didn't even stick around for small talk. Typical. The divorce hearing was surprisingly quick. The judge, a middle-aged woman with a sharp gaze. Well, I have to say this is unusual, she remarked. Most cases like this drag on for months, even years. But here we are with both parties agreeing to a settlement. Deborah forced a smile. Yes, Your Honor. We've reached an understanding. I have no claims against Elliot, and I'm unsure of the biological father of my child. I'll handle things from here. The judge raised an eyebrow but didn't push further. All right then. If there are no further disputes, I hereby finalize the divorce. You're both free to move on with your lives." And just like that, it was over. 5 years of marriage reduced to a few signatures and a judge's gavel. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or heartbroken, maybe both. Later that evening, I met Mike and Harry at the same coffee shop where we'd first discussed the plan. I couldn't thank them enough for what they'd done. "You really came through for me," I said, shaking Mike's hand. "Honestly, I don't know how I would have survived without you guys." Mike smiled warmly. "Hey, you've got Harry to thank. I owe him more than I can ever repay." "Really?" I asked, curious. "What's the story there?" Mike leaned back and glanced at Harry, who chuckled quietly. "I grew up without parents," Mike explained. "Harry was, well, like a father to me. He kept me on the right path when I could have gone in the wrong direction. Everything I've accomplished, I owe to him." Harry waved him off with a grin. "Oh, come on now. You've done plenty on your own. But yeah, when I heard you were in trouble, I knew Mike would help. That's what family, chosen family, does." I felt a lump in my throat. "Well, I'm damn lucky to have met both of you. You've been my lifeline." In the following weeks, things started to change for the better. I found a new job, better pay, better hours. For the first time in years, I felt like I was building something for myself. I moved into a small but decent apartment and slowly began piecing my life back together. Deborah, from what I heard, was managing on her own. Chase had paid the second installment, and the drama between them seemed to have settled down. I didn't wish her ill, but I also didn't plan on looking back. One night, I sat by the window in my apartment, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. I thought about everything, Harry, Mike, even the mess with Deborah. Maybe, just maybe, all of this had been part of some greater plan to push me towards something better. "Thank you," I whispered to the universe, or maybe to God, I wasn't sure, for sending me angels when I needed them most. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was mine, and for the first time in a long time I felt free, ready for whatever came next. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.